It's time for another episode of the PEBAheads, and we've got a special interview with one of our fellow GMs this week. There he is, Matt from Okinawa. How's it going, Matt?
Going well. Thanks for the invite, Sean and Michael, and thanks for again accommodating the time. I know I'm a tough time zone to fit in here.
Oh, we appreciate you being available because it's one of those things where on Slack we all talk, we get to make fun of each other and pick on each other and talk about PEBA, but it's nice to just get it in this format too. So, and yeah, we've got Michael with us this week too to
I was gonna
tag team
say,
it.
Matt, to jump in there really quick. What time you're saying to accommodate you? I think this is more or less our normal time. So it's more of a question of what's the time for you. I think you're accommodating us at this point.
All good. It's 7 a.m. I can hear the kids getting ready for school. So as long as there's no screams, I won't disappear unexpectedly.
Yeah. So definitely thanks for joining, because I know this is an exciting chance to get to talk to you with your different schedule and everything, and get to talk people, which probably you don't get to do enough over there.
No,
You don't have all the opportunities for meetups like we do over here.
Yeah, and where is everyone? I think Cleveland. I need to make myself available in Ohio at some point moving forward. So.
Yeah,
That's where the larger group is. Yeah.
All right. We'll figure something out.
I think the original group that started, whether it was John and everybody else that started way back when, I think the majority of the group actually started on if I remember correctly, a Cleveland forum, the Cleveland Indians or something, and then that's why the majority of the group I think is based out of there. But then there's a good group of us in I think the greater Chicagoland area. I know Greg's from there. I've actually met up with Greg before. I know Jay, when he was visiting, he met up with Greg. I didn't get a chance to meet with them at that time. Sean, you're not too far away, although you're in more St. Louis country.
I was gonna say
Cardinals country, which is a no-no for us here in Chicago. But
we're about 50-50. It's funny because not too far out of the area that I'm at, there are people that will commute into Chicago like on a train every day. So it's always funny. We always joke about. I remember in college there'd be people you'd meet and they're like, "I'm from Chicago," and it's like, "Are you from Chicago, or what suburb are you from?" And it always would just the range kept getting further and further away from Chicago. I'm like,
yeah.
This is not a suburb. This is just small town Illinois at this point. Like, you're not a suburb. But you, Michael, are truly in a suburb of Chicago.
Yeah.
So
right now I'm visiting the in-laws in the northwest suburbs, but yeah, currently I live in actual Chicago, in the city. So
okay, nice.
That's where I normally am, but we're actually moving out to the suburbs in the near future. So.
Well, the next time I have a connection at O'Hare, I will let you know, because that is like 50-50 if you're going to make it or not.
Oh yeah, it's.
Sorry to talk crap about your airport.
Oh no, I completely get it.
I always get on the puddle jumper to O'Hare. It seems like if I need to go somewhere for work, so I know exactly what you mean by that, because it's just like. You could be sitting there on the tarmac and you're like, my connecting flight is less than an hour. I need to go. And
yep.
Just sit there.
One of the few airports that Canadians cannot go through the American line, or they have no special line for us. So I'll once I get to the counter, it's good. It's like 10 seconds, but getting to the counter, I think the last time was like 7 hours. So
Jeez.
just throw out any plans that you have.
Wow.
But that's not what we're here to talk about, right?
I was gonna say, and I'm sitting here when I'm on travel complaining about like when I go to O'Hare, I can't. The lounge access I have is in the international terminal, so it's like half the time and it's not even worth going through a checkpoint and going through all that just to do it. But yeah, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about more fun things. So Matt, when did you join PEBA, and how long have you been in the league?
Yeah, I think I joined in the 33 season. I had a long time on the waiting list. I think at that time it was quite popular and got interviewed or a couple of rounds with Mike. And then at one point he was like, hey, like, I think I'd almost forgot about it. And then at one point he was like, hey, we got Okinawa available. So I think that was in, I want to say 33 or the 34 season. Um, and actually it all worked out well because Okinawa is a place that I've been before. I have some teams that are based there. I haven't been since 2018, but I knew about the Shisa, which is very popular in local culture, and just to have, I think a connection or a tie to the city itself just made it even more appealing. So when I joined, though, a little bit of pressure. I think it was back when there were two wildcard teams. Okinawa slightly missed to make the playoffs, but it was their best season in a while. And I remember with no with no out of the park experience, I looked at that roster and I was just like, I don't understand how it was successful. So a lot of the first couple of seasons was spent getting the finances in order because we had a ton of old guys who probably were getting paid way more than they should have. So it there was a bit of a dip, and then I'm a little bit impatient, so I started trading draft picks to everyone's dismay, and actually was able to get competitive pretty quickly, I think.
You're a man of my heart, sir. Trade all your picks, whatever. We got to compete now.
Yeah, we need that. We need that meme. F them picks, right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Would you
Just trade for
say
those guys a couple years from now?
would you say that you have an identity for how you like to build your teams? I think I already know the answer to this, but for those that don't pay as much attention.
Yeah, I would say so. And actually, this year I'm a little disappointed. You know, I would usually expect to look at a box score and be like, all right, how many home runs did we hit? So it always was kind of the power profile, and I think I was trading pitching to get to that power profile, which works out great because my park is just absolutely ridiculous. If you look at some of the modifiers, I think it's probably the most home run friendly park in the league. So that was something that if it was available, I went looking for it. And sometimes there's some pretty inexpensive deals to be had, whether it's, you know, corner outfielders or first basemen or DHs. So definitely power profile. Disappointing this year because I think the last time I checked that was around 10th or something. And so that's what spurred some of the recent trades that I made to bring back Oglethorpe to bring in you know, Conseco. So hopefully we can get back to what we do best, which is smashing the long ball.
But I was going to say, so I know you were probably suffering from it from, I don't know if it was a season or two ago, where I know I've been seeing it this year, focusing too much on the long ball actually ends up hurting your team. You need those guys that kind of mix in between the power hitters getting on base. And that's probably, or potentially why some of your success this year, regardless of not having long ball, is because you had a little bit of a better mix. I know, like Dennis Johnson, I just moved him in the Shinseki deal, but like he regressed. But regardless of that, he was one of my big power hitters too, consistent, 30 home runs a year, and he's slowly been regressing. And Ortiz came over, obviously, in our trade, but we can get to that later. But he's not been huge on power this year. And I'm another park where I'm not as friendly as yours, but I am still at least on the friendlier side. I'm not like Greg's park where it's geared towards third or triples and doubles and running the bases and everything. But yeah, despite the fact that I think we've been 1 or 2 in home runs this year, I was expecting to be blowing the cover off the ball even more. And quite frankly, we haven't. And I've been losing some games probably because I've been too dependent on the long ball itself.
Yeah, it definitely has like a feast or famine aspect to it, right? Where, you know, there'll be one game where you hit 6 or 5, and you think it's always going to be like that. And then there's those one games where it's like, you know, how many 2-out runners in scoring position opportunities did we miss? And so you probably rack up a little bit.
Did we lose connection?
Uh,
No.
For the second half of that season. So.
there he goes.
We lost you there for a second, Matt.
The VPN. Hopefully, come on, VPN.
Don't disconnect. Yeah, you want to go in on the next one, Mike?
Yeah, let me just jump to the next question there. Sorry about that. All right, so I mean, we went through the basics, so let's just go. You were brought into the league, and I don't think you really emphasized this part. You were actually brought into the league because of Greg, or
Yep.
in part by Greg. You mentioned obviously that you were interviewing for a long time, and I think that's actually kind of interesting because I remember back in the day, my process was not as difficult, but I don't remember how busy it was. I don't remember exactly when I came back. I came back shortly. Crap. This is the negative of being on your phone only and not having your computer in front of you. Normally, I'd be darting around looking at all this information. But I want to say I came back probably around the same time, maybe 34, 35. I think I came back. But yeah, it wasn't as busy. Then I had to wait for one team to open up, and then they were opening up the WIL. But yeah, hopefully, Greg obviously made a great recommendation. I think anytime we get a good GM that is willing to stick around, willing to work through the lulls and kind of build up a team and bring a consistent presence to the league, that's obviously what we needed. So I know we've had a lot of good chats here and there. So just appreciate having you. But skipping, I guess, past that part, as I'm still trying to just connect here on my telephone and nothing else. I know this has been talked of extensively on the podcast and on Slack as well, but you're in one of the toughest divisions, supposedly. We're not counting the transatlantic, because I know that one's a pretty busy one on the IL side. But the Rising Sun has obviously been a very heated division. You guys had historically a lot of almost, I think, every single team other than Neo Tokyo for the most part, who's been rebuilding recently, always competing. Typically, we'd be expecting 3 teams from your division. I think it's probably still potential for 3 teams, but obviously Shinseki's kind of fallen off a bit. But I guess what's your perspective in having to deal with all those other heavyweights in the SL over there?
Yeah, it's fun. And actually, when I first joined, Neo Tokyo was kind of the cream of the crop here as well. So I've kind of seen all of them at some point be a challenger. I was not a rival to Neo Tokyo at any point. So when we were coming up, they were kind of on the way down. But it's a fun division actually. To have Dylan, who I considered like the game master, and then two of the brothers in the division. It also keeps you on your toes, right? And people talk about, I saw a lot of talk about, hey, I want to build my window depending on what other teams are doing, or I want to build my window when I think others might be on the downswing. I don't care. I just want to build my window, And so if I win a division, perfect. If I sneak in on a wild card and take someone out, fine with that as well. And that's really kind of the next step for us. Is I lost 3-2 in the wild card to Reno 2 years ago. Then I lost 3-2 to the Ghosts last year, and I think we gave the games away. Like the last, game 5, the last couple of innings, I think we were leading both and gave them away. So it's fun and it's competitive and it keeps you on your toes. I made a deal with Kevin last week, and I think I commented something to the effect of, I'm surprised we trade as often as we do with each other. And Kevin was saying, yeah, well, it's because I think we recognize, who the active GMs are, and sometimes just it's based out of need, more than anything else. So yeah, I don't want to be staring down, future prospects that I traded, playing them so many times in the division, but sometimes you have to make a move if it's the best. So I think it's fun, keeps you on your toes.
No, I think that's an important topic or point to make too, is like there's been so many times, not just in PEBA, but just in baseball leagues in general, where people are like, I can't trade this guy to this division team. And then they take a lesser deal from someone else. And it's like, yeah, it sucks having to play that guy multiple times and you're getting your butt kicked by him. But at the same token, it's like, what's the end goal? Is it to get the best return back, or is it to just ship him to the other side? And I know where I stand on it. It's definitely get what you can. And there's definitely people, and you've identified someone that had positive talks with in the past, and you're going to have a competitive division whether or not you send that player there or somewhere else. So,
Yep. Although, is there a rising sun premium? If I'm being honest, probably, right? It's probably. Well, I think we'll figure out a way to get a little bit more, ask for a little bit more. So, but it hasn't seemed to have stopped the trading between the teams anyway.
I mean, I would hope you'd at least say like, hey, there's been a couple other Rising Sun teams that are kicking the tires on this guy.
Yeah,
Make
exactly.
a
Do
good
you want?
offer.
Do you want to beat the ghosts? Do you want to beat
Yeah,
the dancers? And even, hey, are you set up for to take down the Apollos, who've been just absolutely smashing this year?
yeah, they're definitely they had a really bad injury this past sim, but the pace they're on right now, it's been really impressive.
Yeah, that's a tough injury though. But I think they've obviously built up enough of a lead that it's not going to be problematic. It's about probably taking the time for the rest of the year to see, okay, what's the best configuration, or what's the best lineup moving forward.
Yeah, and it really sucks that it happened like the sim right after the trade deadline. So there's no.
Yep.
But one of your teammate or one, not your teammates, but division mates, I could see a possible. I know he had mentioned the possibility of putting let's see, who was it? Lorenzo Valdez possibly on waivers. And
Hmm.
I know I definitely looked into it for the Claymores. It doesn't make sense for me to do it, but I could see Tempe if they have the money available to possibly take that shot.
Now, would people let him be available for a Tempe claim? Right, that would be the question.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't do any interference there, but I'd be very curious, because I think the way it works is SL record first, and then it goes over to IL, right? So
yep.
I don't know. He may get picked up. He's making what, 8?
I think 8. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean he's been on 2 teams this year. Not really hitting for average, but the power definitely is there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It'd be interesting. Be interesting to see what goes on there with all this.
No, we are out of money in Okinawa, so I cannot. Even if I wanted to defensively claim, I would not be able to.
It's always interesting though. I like that the waiver system is set up this way. It is because I know other sports leagues, it's just based on record. And if you're going to have 2 separate leagues, then have them go through the system, just like the defunct MLB.
Yep.
Bob likes to say.
I didn't even realize that until just recently, actually, because there was that discussion in the forum, and I was like, oh, okay, or the discussion in Slack. And then sometimes you miss out. Like Michael, you had a couple of guys on the waivers that I put claims in for 2 of your guys, and obviously they didn't make it to me. So I that's new information, but I think it's interesting, and it makes a lot of sense to your point, Sean.
Especially in our
I
type of league, because we're not playing the other side.
Yep.
Like the only time you're playing them is in the final. So it's definitely I like it. But
I was actually surprised how busy the waiver wires have been recently, because I feel like more often than not, guys will tend to sneak through. But yeah, I was admittedly trying to sneak some guys through myself. Failed miserably, as I think I lost 3 guys this past sim, but that's all right.
hey, that means league activity's up.
Exactly. More people competing, so not all these 100+ loss teams and just padding your win totals. So
Yeah,
can't complain.
it's become part of my post sim routine, which is, okay, check the games, check the waiver wire. And I've missed out on a couple of good potential pickups because I wasn't doing that in the past. And now I always try and make a habit of, all right, check the games, and then head out over to the waiver wire, see what's going on there.
Oh yeah, got to do a lot of checking. I always check the waiver wires. I check if anyone's been released to see if any of those minor leaguers are worth picking up, just to see if they can grow a little bit on my team. I've picked up some solid guys that were just randomly released. They didn't look like much, and they ended up turning into decent, like pivotal pieces and some other trades and other deals later on. So definitely got to be a
But one topic that wasn't on the list, but I wanted to touch briefly on it since it ties my division towards your division, Matt. And that's the difference between like the transatlantic battles versus the rising sun. And one thing that stands out to me is that we have Florida and for a long time West Virginia on the IL side. So they would have high records just, dominating on this side. And I feel like sometimes the transatlantic would get lost in that shuffle because you had two teams that were just so far and above better than everyone else. And then when you looked on the SL side, my time here, a lot of the top teams were coming out of the rising sun. So that battle and the focus there was always there. But I know historically, like Aurora has been strong. There's been other teams that have challenged on the SL side, and Reno. We always joke with Scott about his every other year competition.
Yeah, up and
He
down.
had two in a row for a while, but now it's back to the every other. But it's interesting to me just the dynamic there. I feel like now the IL, the transatlantic, is getting closer to the rising sun with competitive teams, but I don't know if that's just more of West Virginia declining a slight bit and it becomes more apparent.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective there, kind of on the outside looking in, is it was always kind of West Virginia and Florida, and then the others would kind of take their chances and get to the postseason and then see what they could do. It's been interesting actually to see the transatlantic because there was always kind of yourself and Evan that were battling it out. You had Amsterdam, who was usually competitive and hanging around. So it's been interesting to kind of see it going from like two juggernauts to more competitiveness where we were just talking about it before we hit record, the Maulers being in second in your division, Michael.
Yeah.
And Havana really popping up, and I didn't see that coming. To me, I'd say punching above their weight class, but to your point, there's a lot of good young prospects that are developing and a lot of good young pitching that's in the IL. So I think we're starting to see that, and even the statesmen who have historically been in rebuilding since I've been here, you're starting to see a lot of their players really come into maturity to the point where I was looking at their roster a couple of sims or days ago and thinking, oh my gosh, they have a lot of tough decisions coming up on arbitration because you can't pay them all. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how some of these teams position themselves moving forward.
Yeah, Charleston's been a topic that we've touched on a couple of times, and I know Michael has some strong opinions on
I think
their
we tend to
future.
keep the majority of the strong opinions off the pod for the most part, but yeah, no, they definitely have some tough decisions ahead. I would say, I guess back to the original part of the topic, just I think a big part of it is there's a lot less teams doing the full rebuild part of it. Obviously, there's still a couple, and I think that was probably what some of the bloated numbers were historically. I mean, you had Yuma in the SL who has done a 180, and they've done a much better job of making or taking less risks and just trying to kind of build internally and focusing on that. And they're actually competitive this year, finally, or they're at least moving towards competitiveness. And I think we're seeing that trending a lot more, especially in the IL as well. Same thing. I mean, Charleston finally competing. I know Scott and I were talking or arguing about this in the first podcast of the new season, and we were just saying he didn't think they can make that huge jump in wins, and I thought it was still possible because it's a bit of a unique situation the way that everything, all the players were held back as opposed to just not having the talent. So, yeah, I think it's just the fact that a lot of the teams are actually competing and trying finally, which is I think a good healthy sign. And there's a lot less teams competing for the bottom, I should say, and tanking kind of purposely. Because I know we did have there was a while there we had a lot of that on both sides, and probably like 3 or 4 teams that were rebuilding in both leagues, and that's why there was so many just bloated win seasons. I know Florida was good, but there's no reason they should be winning 120 plus games a season, because everyone else should be at least trying, and I just don't feel like a lot of people were. I know we kind of touched on it a bit earlier, Matt. Just you saying, like you're willing to make the trades and trade your picks and try to get better. Like obviously that's been my mantra as well. I still don't have any picks in the first round since coming back to New Jersey. But like we need more of, not necessarily maybe to the extent that you and I do it, but we need more of just that focus on competitiveness and less of a focus on, hey, I want to tank and get to 100 plus losses just so I can increase my odds of the number one pick.
Well, let's take a moment to take a break to pay the bills here. We'll let Lenny surprise us with the commercial, and then we'll get back after the break.
This is Bill Cosby. My wife and I are packing to go on a week's vacation, and we are going to just have a ball. We're going to see wild animals, do some surfing, take the children to the amusement parks, see some of the historic treasures. We've got plenty of camping equipment, and we're going to go up in the mountains and do some walking. Where are we going? New Jersey.
For a perfect vacation, come to New Jersey. New Jersey and you, perfect together.
All right, and we're back after that commercial that hopefully you all enjoyed. We got Matt with us still here. We're gonna kind of dive in more about just kind of the things you like about OOTP and what makes you happy when you're playing the game. And this next question kind of goes right into that. And it's, do you get more joy on scoring big on a late round pick, or knowing that you locked up someone early that's a stud that's going to be a key person for you building?
Yeah, I probably have recency bias here. So of course I'm gonna say I love the late round pick that hits. And of course, we have Yoritomo. I'll just call him the samurai slinger, about Hayakawa. I've been on the other side of it where you're very excited about a prospect who you think is going to hit. And I've had some bad luck. I've had some bad luck this sim, or in this sim, with some injuries. So I traded for a nice, promising young pitcher, Mike Robinson. I think he pitched like 7 innings for us, and then had a career-ending injury. And then I had Saito, who was a top pitching prospect as well. Who, for those who don't know, has the nickname of Racemophobia because he had fingers chopped off in a lawnmower accident. So I have not had good luck with the pitching prospects, the highly touted ones. So I'm gonna go with the late round ones that hit or that bloom. Yeah, but a lot of bad luck for me and recency bias there. So. And then I'll try and trade, right? So, it might not be my stud, but if I see somebody that I think, ooh, that's interesting for my team. And actually we've both made some pretty big trades. I still have Ramos from our trade, Sean, where I sent out a promising pitching prospect, probably because I have kind of the fear that all my pitching prospects are just gonna, blow up or not turn out well. So.
Yeah, and I thought that trade was going to work out well for both of us. It did for the first couple seasons, but then with Rodriguez, like I think it was in the off season, he had like a ratings drop, and I was trying to figure out like why. It's like he just had a whole year, like he was injured part of the year, but he had a year where he put up a 2.74 ERA and looked like he was going to be the pitcher that I thought he was going to be, and then that was in 2038. 2039, he had like a 3.9 ERA and pretty much blew out his elbow after that. So might have been a precursor, one of those things where it was the injury wasn't there, but it was there. It was telling me that there was something
Yeah.
that happened, but
Yeah, I
it still looks
apologize.
like he'll be a good reliever.
We put that Okinawa juju on the picture, so sorry about that, Sean. But he was looking, honestly, I thought he had golden arm potential. So it's, even having traded him away, you obviously keep an eye and look on what your old prospects were doing, and just sad to kind of see the re-rate and then the injury he's going through this year as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, like you can see here, I've got my scout showing, but at the time of the trade, I think he was like a 8.66 or a
Yep.
8.67 type guy. Ramos, power hitting third baseman. Not too many of those guys out there. So again, it was a win-win trade for both of us. We were looking for two different things, but able to help each other out. But yeah, it sucks when you get an injury like that, but that's why you have to have depth in this game.
Yep.
You can't rely on just one guy, put all your eggs in that one basket. Right, Michael? Or do you just get a bunch of 3-star pitchers and hope for the best?
I'll just keep trading. That's what I'll do. Before I talk about myself, I completely forgot that it was your team who had the lawnmower accident.
Yeah.
That was completely forgot about that one. I think we talked about that. Maybe it was at the end of last season's podcast, or it might have been early on. That was wild. And I forget, did he actually take like an impact to his pitching because it was on throwing hand, right? I don't know.
Yeah,
if
I mean,
specific.
I'm not sure if it was. I'm assuming it was because of the injury, but yeah, he's lost a little bit in terms of the ratings, and he lost a pitch as well. So, not the pitch didn't get taken away, but the rating on the pitch is essentially he's a reliever now as opposed to a starter. So,
which guy was this again?
That is Sho Saito. He's
Okay.
in my bullpen right now.
Well, when you grip the changeup, you got to have like solid grip on there. So maybe that finger, but he's got a good curveball. So
right. I think it was non-pitching hand, but I'm still gonna blame the injury on it. That's what I'm gonna go.
Who was the guy? Wasn't there like a Yankees pitcher in the 90s that only had one hand and would like after he threw the ball would switch the glove over to the other hand? Was it
I think he was with the Angels. John Abbott?
Yeah, Abbott. Yep. So hey, it can happen, I guess.
There we go.
As long as they can make it work.
Yeah.
I'll get him some Abbott posters.
Moving on to some more Okinawa philosophies. I guess we can kind of dive into and revisit at this point, the big Ortiz trade from the off season. How are you liking it on your end?
I didn't want to do it, but it was more of a have to do it. I started to really bump up in terms of the payroll to the point where I also switched owners. So I went to a very controlling or interfering owner. I can't remember exactly what, but she is like, no, you can't spend that money, or I'll try and submit something and I'll get an error message actually in the sim. So I think I'm the only team in the league. I can't remember which one she's red for, but I'm the only team in the league that has her like hard red for that. And so I get a lot of interesting pop-ups in the app of her just being like, So it really came to fruition last year when I was trying to sign draft picks. I didn't have anything budgeted for that. And so I wasn't able actually to leverage any additional cash for that. And that's why I had to swing some trades with Aurora to get some cash to try and sign draft picks. And so when I was looking at where we're going, it was more of probably a need that I needed to clear that off the salary or something else, or make a decision elsewhere. So the trade, I think it's working fine. I got some nice pieces in the pen, especially that are working out, but the unicorn player of good hitter at shortstop position is hard to give up.
I will say I know we talked about this before, but yeah, to take on that contract, that was probably the scariest part for me. Obviously, I was hoping for his defensive side more than his hitting side. His hitting side was a plus. I know I've talked about this before. I've struck out on shortstop so often. I think I've made at least a trade for two or three different shortstops, and they end up collapsing for whatever reason at that position. And so it's been nice to have someone you can count on. I've royally screwed myself financially this year, though. And I did not offload enough. I kind of thought, oh, I'll take the hit, whatever. I need to go deep in the playoffs, but I'm hoping it'll work out. I think I probably hamstrung myself a little bit and had to move a lot of my picks and other pieces just to kind of re-get some arms because I probably moved too many arms in the deal. But for now, it's working out. I won't complain. And I'll have to work diligently to watch my finances a little bit better the next couple seasons. But yeah, so far can't complain. I wish his power was a little bit higher, just based on his historics. But obviously, as you mentioned, your park's a little bit better towards that than mine. But yeah, so far so good. I think it's been a win-win. So I guess you can't really ask for more than that.
Yeah, I would do it again. I really wanted to get Stewart, and that was before he blew up. That was when he was still in AAA.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was before he blew.
Yeah, but I think I realized very early in those conversations that was a non-starter, and so that's really what you need to weigh. Like, okay, and to be honest, I wasn't getting. There was a couple of people interested, and they're like, but it was more of the kicking tires. Like, hey, what are you looking for? And then I was just like, I want first round pick, top prospect, and then I didn't hear much from. So I think in the end it was just a couple of people. So you also have to understand supply and demand, right? So how do you balance having the unicorn but not pushing people away, demanding the Ken Stewarts of the world? So
yeah, and I similar to your pitcher Hayakawa. I had sat there and had hopes that despite not having the flashiest stars or whatever, I know Sean, we talk about stars here and there, but not looking like the most prominent pitcher. He was just another one of those guys that was demolishing the minors, and you're kind of hopeful. Is it going to translate? Hopefully it's going to translate. I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think on Hayakawa's side, did you add a pitch and he learned to pitch naturally, or was that thinking of somebody else?
I can't even remember. I'd have to double check.
I'll pull him up. Let's see.
I forget if he's that one that he kind of got that double bonus, I want to say. But I obviously added the pitch to get him to 4. And I think it helps out. It gives them more options. I always feel that it's better to have more pitches than less, in my opinion. But so yeah, he got one naturally, right? Did I say circle change there?
Yeah, circle change.
Yeah. So he got
okay.
he naturally gained a circle change, which I think is like an 8 or a 9. It's rated really well. And then I think you gave him a pitch in winter ball as well.
Yeah, I think I did actually, because I do think if I go to history, did he? Yeah, attended winter ball as well in 38. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, the double pitch ad in 38.
Yeah. Very astute learner there. But no, he's been. I've been jealous of him. I know that you're jealous of Stewart and not getting it, but Hayakawa is another guy that's just. I know we talked about it a bit, but just these late round picks hitting, I think, because, and I was actually surprised at your answer because both of us kind of trading our picks for the most part every season. I would expect the late round magic kind of being a little bit more exciting because at that point you got less options. You're kind of just dealing with whatever you have left over, and you're just hoping that something hits. But no, so far I think the trade's worked out for both of us. I can't complain.
Yeah, I would do it again, probably because out of necessity more than anything else. So.
I would do it just for the stress again.
Well, and who signed your RFA? So whoever did that, thank you, because that's
Lenny.
It was Lenny. Okay, well, Lenny. Thank you, Lenny. When you're editing this.
Yeah.
He'll probably throw in a complaint into the actual podcast because he's still very upset about that one.
So to kind of go away from OOTP for a second, Matt, how do you come from Canada but like baseball
Oh.
and hockey?
Could not stop on skates. So I would my method of stopping was smashing into the end boards, and so um, I'm sure I could have figured it out if I stuck with it. But I took a liking to baseball. I think my dad. I didn't see him watching a lot of hockey, but he definitely was a huge Blue Jays fan. So I just got into baseball and then just started, kind of playing it competitively. So I was the odd not hockey playing, baseball playing, and actually in high school I played football for 5 years as well. So 5 years not because I had to repeat any grade, but because in Ontario province at that time, high school was 5 years. So
There you
just need
go.
to clarify that for all the other listeners.
Well,
So
we
you
didn't
learn
need
something every
we didn't
single
need
day.
Justin to comment that you had to repeat a year or something.
Exactly. Yeah, so I was the weird baseball, football, not hockey guy. So it was interesting times.
It's
So
a good combo.
to kind of bring it back to OTP, how much do you love your team logo? Like you mentioned earlier, kind of some of the connections to it, your team name, but tell us more
Yeah,
about the logo.
so I gotta say I lucked in there because that had nothing to do with anything that I designed. It was already there when I joined the team. And whoever created the team names for this league, like they definitely dove into the local history. So I don't know about the background or any way that the teams were created, but the more that I've understood, not just my own team, but others, there's definitely like an understanding of local culture or local connections. And so the Shisa in Okinawa is massive. So if you're ever there visiting, you see it everywhere. It's on rooftops, it's in front of the buildings, and it's just a sign of. I probably don't even know enough to comment about it, but when I was there, my employees were extremely proud to kind of showcase it, and it's kind of a combination of good fortune and protection and luck and things like that. So I was actually pretty surprised that was the logo. So the logo itself is great, but kind of the culture and the understanding around that and how important it is for the local Okinawans, also I think is really impressive.
I think that ties back to Yuki comments about the kind of paying special um, acknowledgments, I guess, to the local area of every single team. I think that was kind of one of the big driving forces, and probably need someone like Mike or somebody to chime in here because I don't remember exactly when exactly the LRS was created. Kevin might know for how long that's been around, but I know that that was a big effort of John's originally. Essentially, any team that was created, any team that was out there had to have ties to the area, had to kind of, you had to be able to speak to whatever team you're making. He didn't want arbitrary names. He didn't want just like random stuff. It had to be kind of specific to the area so that it made sense. And I think that is something that we've at least tried to keep going, especially when some teams do relocate. Even like when I moved from Canton to Madison originally, like I had it all planned out with, all around focused around different beer vendors. And I was local to the Milwaukee area at that time and really into the craft beer scene and everything. So I tried to like make the entire franchise that focus. But I think that at least has been a consistent piece that has been with us since the start of the league. It's just, we wanted to keep it real. I know, I want to say before Dan, if it was Mike, was it Mike Dunn who used to run the Ghosts, I believe. He actually had, I think, students from his area right back on when we were doing some of the, I think it was a period of time where we were actually doing tweets and we had like fake Twitter accounts for our teams. And we were actually like doing posts. He had students from that area, I think, reach out to him or something about one of the stories or articles that he wrote about his team back in the day. So no, it's just, it's definitely interesting. I think that cultural part and just tying it back to your area is important for the league. And I agree with you. I think your team has easily got one of the best logos in the entire league, and it's been here, I think, since the beginning. I don't think it's been touched, and I think I'd be very, very upset if someone ever touched or changed your logo.
Well, no, it's not going anywhere while I'm around, so no worries. It is very cool. Just the history, though. I think that you can definitely feel the time, the effort, and the care that was put in. And actually, I think that to be honest, for me, it really ties me to the team, or helps me feel a sense of I don't know if ownership is the right word, but it helps me really feel tied to the team, which I think is super cool.
For sure. Sean, what do we got next?
Well, we kind of touched that Greg kind of helped bring you into the league, but what other sports sim leagues do you still play, or have you? We'll do still play, and then kind of overall history of how you got here.
Sure. So I am in a basketball league. I think that one is with Greg is there and Jay is there. And I hate basketball, but the league is the league is fun. So it's a good time, and I think I've been in that since like 2005 or something. So coming up on 20 years. And that's where I met Jay, and that's where I met Greg. And before that, kind of as a kid in high school, there was something called like the Dolphin Sim games, and so that's where I originally, I think it's still going actually. That's where I originally started, and then a couple of guys there broke off and started the basketball league. So I just got kind of pulled in from there. So not a complex history, but a little bit longer. So started when I was in high school and never really stopped.
I think I brought up that question because I was interested about the basketball league. Do you have Jason in that league as well, or no?
Yeah, Warnke is there. Yeah,
Okay, is he still in that league?
he is. Yep.
How have you guys not talked him to come back to FIBA? I think I've tried multiple times, but
Well, probably because I'm here. I give Jason a lot of crap over there. All in good fun, actually. Him and I get along great. But yeah, I think he has. Every time I turn around, Jason has another kid. So I think he's very. I think he's
very
very
busy.
yeah, time restrained. He could field the basketball team, I think, on his own right now.
He was, for your reference, Sean. I don't know if he was here when you joined. He was the Hartford GM. I think he transitioned the team over to Hartford. It was originally the Omaha Cyclones, and he had changed them over to Hartford. And I don't remember how shortly after he switched it to Hartford that he left. But if I remember correctly, I think the Hartford team name was a little bit more in alignment with kind of his basketball team, wasn't it? Because he had a similar Hartford team name over there as well, didn't he? Like the Buzzards or something?
Yeah, now he's a Buzzard. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Yeah.
so shout out to the forums then, because I never caught that, but there's a thread on the forum with like GM history. So I'm gonna go through there and see if there's any other names I recognize.
That's a good place to visit. I think it is still kept up every single year. I forget who particularly monitors that, but yeah, definitely a fun thing to check because it's got all the old teams on there from when we were actually a split league as well, between two separate leagues entirely. So definitely. We had a lot of people come and go, and then a lot of repeat GMs that have shifted around between multiple teams. But yeah, Warnacki was here back in the day.
Well, thank you, Matt, for your time. I know you've got your day just starting, and gotta get kids off to school and meetings and all that. So thank you for taking the time with us. We'll definitely have you back on, and yeah, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Was looking forward to it, and whenever you feel like you want Rising Sun talk or just general league interest, I'm around and happy to contribute. So I appreciate the time.
Yeah, like we said to Jason, we'll have to get you back on when we can get the larger group on, because I feel like when the larger group is on, that's what we have a little bit more of interesting conversation. Not that this wasn't interesting, but it tends to veer very quickly into all sorts of wild and crazy things. So those are always fun as well. So we'll definitely get you back on.
Sounds good. And I'll come with some rye or something that time because I think that was one of my favorite ones. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.